Welcome to IOD TV, you guys. Today we're going to be playing with some of the new products. So excited. So excited. The products I'll be using today, you guys, are several. I just brought them in here. What did I do with them? So several things. I'll be using an Iron Orchid wood blank. Hey, Carolyn. Hey, Carla. And this one is a 12 by 16. So this is, I believe this is the largest one. But I really wanted to pick a larger one for this project today, and I'll show you guys why. And I'll also be using the new stamp, you guys, the sunflowers. Have you guys seen this? It is fabulous. Hey, Krista. Hey, Joyce. It is fabulous. And so I'll go through and show you guys all the pieces to this. And of course, you guys know I'm going to be using it in like, not like it's supposed to be used, but it's going to be good. And then we'll be using the Exploration Transfer, you guys. So I was excited to see this transfer come out. I can see this being used in so many different rooms. And so we'll go through and look at these pieces as well. So let's go through. Let's see, what do we want to do first? Let's go look at the new stuff first, and then we'll play with it. How about that? That'll work. Is that okay for you guys? So for the sunflower stamp, you guys, so you guys have seen the chrysanthemum and the peonies, right? The stamps, like the open space, and I've just seen some remarkable creative uses of those stamps. And so the sunflower is in the same vein as those stamps. So, Linda, I know, it's hot. This one is the one I'm going to use today. You guys see that? See the line work? Isn't that gorgeous? So we're going to use this stamp today, but the stamp also comes with like this one. You see where the sunflower is kind of looking up at the sun, and then you have your leaves, and this is a two-part stamp, so there's 2 pages to it. And then look at this. You get this huge one, you guys. It's fabulous. And then you get this leaf, which is kind of turned a little bit. And of course, you get the stems so that you can build your designs any way you want. And of course, all the stamps now come with the masks so that you can stamp and mask back so that you can layer your stamps easier and still maintain your design without having a lot of overlap. And then the other new product we'll be using is the Exploration. So I just want to go through this one. I'm going to open a new one because I already cut mine all up, y'all. So we'll go through a new one so you guys can see all the pages. And if you guys will do me a favor, if you guys think that your friends would love to see what I'm doing today, if you could sunny and share, or sprinkle, or spread the love, or make it rain, however you guys do that, if you guys could do that for me, that would be awesome. So this is some of the pieces. You guys can see them in here. And this is another 8-page transfer. So there's like loads in here, you guys. So we're going to go through it really quickly before I get started. This is the first page. This is probably one of the, it's a boat with wings. It's really cool. And then this is actually one of the balloons I'll be using today. I may be using these gears. I haven't decided yet on the piece we'll be working together today. And then we have here some map features. This was a steam engine, looks like. Really cool. And isn't this balloon gorgeous, you guys? And it's huge. I wanted to use it today, but it was scaled too big for the piece we're doing, so I had to use a smaller one. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, thank you. And isn't this cool? Did you guys see that anchor? So it's Exploration, but you guys know what I'm going to do, right? You guys know I'm going to steampunk it up a little bit. I just can't even help myself. I can't even help myself. And this boat is gorgeous. Look at that. And it's huge. Whenever I show you guys my hands, just to give you guys some reference, I'm 6 feet tall and I was a middle blocker in volleyball in college. Like my hands are huge. They're as big as a lot of men's hands. So like this is huge. This is a huge transfer. And it's beautiful. Look at the details. Okay, sorry. I'm excited about this one. And then I'll be using one of these smaller ones, smaller balloons in my project today. But we have a train, and of course we have some more winks to the idea of exploration. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Wendy. We have some bicycles, trains. You know, there's it's interesting, the idea of bicycles. I don't think a lot of us women today think about, but for a lot of women, bicycles gave them a lot of freedom back in the day, because then they could move about without having to be ushered, you know, or taken. They could just go on their bikes and go by themselves. This train is super cool. And then of course you have a smaller boat, and you guys know I'm digging the numbers, right? And then the last page is an alpha page, so that you can spell out, whoops, sorry, I tweaked my page. Let me untweak it. So that you can spell out whatever you want to spell out. And I'm going to show you guys something, a trick that I'm using to be able to line these up when we work on our project today. So these are the things that I'm working with today. I hope you guys will hang out with me and we can work on this project together. What we're working on today, you guys, is this board. I've taken the liberty of decoupaging this already, you guys, for the sake of time. So I just decoupaged this before I got started today. I could have built this background with paint and glazes, but I cheated. I used a piece of decoupage paper to create my background. And hey, Terry, make sure I can see all of my comments. That looks good? Okay, thank you guys. I'm trying to figure all this newfangled stuff out. But this is what I'm thinking, you guys, and you guys can tell me if I'm crazy. I would like to use my stamp, but I want it to be like the sun over here. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm debating if I should do a little bit of fussy cutting with it. I think I want to, just a few. And then we're gonna do some embossing with copper so that it's really nice and shiny. And so I was thinking that I would put this balloon here, right? And then I want to do a lesson, but it's going to seem really corny, but I'm okay. I'm going to do it anyways. So whenever you guys are layering your stuff, like if you want to force a perspective, you can draw lines to do it. So like I want this balloon to be coming off edge here, and I want this one to seem like it's maybe a little, it's in the same space, but it's further away. So I have like an imaginary triangle that I'm going to draw from here to here, and it's going to go out like that. And so I want to put this guy right where this triangle is going to meet him, so that it looks like he's kind of in the same space, but that he's further back. I hope that makes sense for you guys. So these two are going to be layered, and then I'm going to put the word wonder right here, and I'll show you guys how I did that because I had to cut out the pieces. So the first thing I want to do is I want to work with the stamp first. But so I'm going to put all this aside for just a second. This is my first time using this stamp, so you guys know I'm going to take my sanding block, which is probably at this point like a 300 grit because it's an old one. But I'm going to take it and I'm just going to go across my stamp. And you guys, I'm not pushing super hard. I'm just sanding across, and then I'm going to go across in the other direction and do the same thing. And so this is how you condition your stamp. It gives your stamp more tooth so that it holds your medium better, and you get crisper stamps when you do this first. And so that's it. So this is just, again, probably 300 grit. You don't want to go lower than like 220 because you don't want to score your stamp, right? So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use my brayer, but I'm going to do something a little bit weird because I'm going to stamp on some scrap pieces of decoupage paper, and then I'm going to fussy cut the piece out of my paper, and then I'm going to decoupage it. That's the plan, you guys. And I don't want to do it to like every like all of the flower, but I just want to have some topography in some of them. And so I'm going to cheat by doing it this way. And so look at my stamp is such a mess, you guys. I overloaded it the first time, and so it just is what it is. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to use my brayer, and I'm going to load my brayer. I learned this from Carmen, from Carmen's Curious Farms, or Carmen's Curiosities, and I have had so much success since I started using my ink pad and my brayer with my stamps. So I'm going to look for like a bigger flower or a bigger petal to use because I'm going to be fussy cutting this. So I think I'm going to do like this little section right here. So I'm trying to load my ink, and I'm inking my stamp over my project, you guys. Do as I say, not as I do. Don't do that. You just want to rub your finger over your stamp. You'll notice this stamp, this hand is holding my stamp steady, and this hand is just going over and making sure there's really good contact between the stamp and the paper. And I like to let my stamp rest for a few minutes too, you guys. Just, you know, to let that ink really get on there and absorb into your surface so that you end up with a nice crisp stamp. Pick straight up. And then I'm gonna fussy cut a piece out of here. Now, I'm not gonna cut like, oh, I should have done these numbers right here. Dang it. I'm gonna cut around like the larger portion of the flower, not all the smaller details. And I'll show you in a little bit why we're gonna do it this way. And let's add a little bit of color to them because that background is so bright. I think this white would look really stark on there. So let's do rusty hinge. A little bit of rusty hinge I think would be nice. We're just gonna dot it on there and add some color. Ooh, that's gonna be pretty. Okay. And so we're going to set this aside, and we're going to do this in a little bit. Actually, maybe we should do this piece first. So I'm going to set those two aside. And for the sake of time, you guys, I'm only going to do two. But you could literally do a whole flower. And not just on the sunflower. With the chrysanthemums and the peonies, you have the same opportunity because there's so much open space in the new stamps. And so let's get back to my board. And let's go ahead and do our sun first. So I want to put the sun over here in this corner. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to take our stamp, and I know which side to use, right? Because I only loaded the one side because I'm not going to put the whole thing. I'm thinking just like that. What do you guys think? Just about right there, right? And you guys remember that even if like steampunk and industrial is my personal aesthetic, right? But if you have a different aesthetic, you guys can take the things that we teach here, but you can just apply your own, I say your own flavor, right? You can put your own flavor on it. It doesn't have to look like, it's probably not going to look like our projects because you're going to add your own sensibility, your own aesthetic to it. So even if you don't like steampunk, it's okay. It's fine. I'm gonna wipe this really quickly before I use this. You guys don't tell anybody, okay? But I found these wipes at the Dollar Tree, and they have alcohol in them, rubbing alcohol in them, so they clean really nicely. And usually I use like baby wipes, but I think I like these better than the baby wipes. And I'm gonna have to make sure I keep holding on this so I remember what side I stamped on already. I just don't want to get any ink on my embossing ink pad. So I'm gonna wipe this just really quickly. And I'm just drying that because I don't want to have that interfere with my process. So I'm being really careful not to move this because I know that this was one of the ones I cut out right here, and I believe this is the other one. So I want to make sure that I went through all that trouble to cut them out, right? So I want to make sure that I include them in the final design. So this is just some clear embossing fluid, embossing ink, some clear embossing ink. And I'm going to close that. And so I'm going to stamp this right here, making sure that to get my two flowers that I have topography for on there, right? So now that I've stamped my embossing ink on there, I'm going to put the powder on here. This is why I love doing mixed media pieces, because you get to play and experiment with different things on the same surface, and you get to create different dimensions. I like it a lot. And so I am not going to waste any of this, you guys. So I have, you can use paper, you know, but I have paper plates here. I use my paper plates for everything. I'm going to take it and I'm going to put a fold right here and make me a bit of a funnel right there. And I am just going to dump this onto my plate. And then all this is going to go back in my container. Waste not, want not, right? And this is copper that I'm using today. And I should have decoupaged that first. Dang it. When you guys do this, decoupage first. Then do your embossing. I think I was so excited about the embossing that I forgot about the decoupage. My heat gun isn't hot yet. You guys, I have fallen in love with this process, and I'm sure a lot of you already know how to do this. But embossing is so easy and it's so beautiful. So watch this, you guys. Now that my gun has gotten warm, do you guys see what's happening? Isn't that absolutely fabulous? This is the satisfying part for me. And so all my powder is melting and it's making this beautiful foiled look. I'm not going to decoupage now, you guys. I am so upset with myself. I should have decoupaged it first. So if I had to do this all over again, I would stamp my flower with like a neutral color, decoupage my petals, and then go over the top of that with the embossing. Because imagine how beautiful that would have been with this, with the copper on top of that, right? Arrgh. We'll see what happens. I may still do that. I really like that. I'm doing it, you guys. I don't care. I'm doing it. And I'll just figure something else out later because I just have to add this component. Maybe I'll go back over the top again. So I picked a dark background today, you guys, because everything that's going on top is fairly neutral. And so I wanted to stand out. And I think if I had put the neutral things on top of a neutral background, then everything would have been lost. And so this is what I mean by playing, you guys. Get you a piece of wood, break out your craft supplies, and just start playing and see what happens. I always say that the magic happens when you're just creating just for creation's sake with no expectation. It's where the discovery is. So we decoupage those on there. And now I want to go ahead and put my balloons on. I am going to do, so I have to do this one behind this one because I want to say that this one's in the front and this one's in the back. But I also want to make sure that we see our little guy here. So I want this one to be off edge a little bit. Actually, a lot of it. Let's pull this one way down. And then that way, when we're looking at our perspective, we can still get the people on this one, but they're gonna have to go a little bit behind this one. So let's get this one down first. Oh no, we have to put this one down first. And we know that that's where we want it. And you guys, if you've never used transfers before, they are wonderful. They are so easy to use. I did seal this surface first because I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have any issues. I mean, I'm not going to have any issues anyways, but I just find that my transfers adhere better to a sealed surface. And so I always seal first and then apply my transfers. And you guys see that little wave? It's called catching the wave. It makes your transfers come off faster, but if you do that, make sure that you go back over and just rub your transfer, because you want to make sure that there's good contact between the transfer and the surface so that you don't have any issues with it lifting later. And you guys see how that pops off of the surface? If I had used a neutral background, I feel like this would have just hidden. But because it's on a really bright, you know, colorful background, it really pops off of there really beautifully. And so I know that I only want to use half of this one. So I'm going to cut this because I don't like to waste any of my transfer bits, you guys. I save them. I save them all. Because you can use them for smaller projects. Sometimes I almost use them to add texture to a piece if I'm working on it. I think I will just cut it right here on that line. That'll make it easier. First of all, steampunk is imaginary. Like it doesn't exist anywhere in history, right? So it's just something, it's an aesthetic, it's an idea that a lot of people love. A lot of people like me. This, when we look at like the gears and the hot air balloons, it really is a celebration of like creation or creativity and science. So you guys know, like I always think about the mid 1800s to mid 1900s was a really huge jump for mankind as far as technology and science are concerned. And so when you think about steampunk, just imagine the people of that time really opened their minds up to the possibilities of what could be in the universe. But at that time, the only really like energy generating science was steam. So the idea of steampunk is taking your ideas of technology that you know today and then kind of what would it look like if it were powered by steam, right? It's not just industrial. So because we're looking at the Victorian era, there were also a lot of really ornate things that were being created. So like if you looked at a cannon from that time, even though it was a cannon, I bet you in the back there was really beautiful ornate details that the artisans of that time would have added to that piece. And so that's why when I think about steampunk, like aesthetically, I think it's so exciting as well, because you have this kind of the hardness of the industrial against the softness of you know, the kind of what would be considered feminine details or really ornate details. And so if we have time, I'm hoping we can add some ornateness to this piece as well. What do you guys think? So I went through earlier and I cut out my numbers. This E is the only one giving me trouble. The backing is coming off, but you guys will notice the backing from the other letters is not coming off. So I cut them out individually and then I laid them on the table, and then I just took a piece of tape, you guys, and put it over the top. That way I know that it's lined up perfectly the way that I want, because I was trying to figure out, I was just too lazy to try to line them up one by one. Like I didn't want to do that. And so I just used regular like gift wrapping tape, you guys, just regular old tape. And so now I can take the backing off of here, and everything is all lined up already. And you know what? I think that's going to be dark on dark. So let's do something really quickly. Let's lighten that space up a little bit. Ah, the tape won't let go of my finger. I'm just going to take some white paint, you guys. My table is a mess. I'm just going to take a little bit of white paint. Make sure that's paint and not primer. And we are going to dab it on here. And we're going to create a space so that my words show up really well. And I don't want it to be like super opaque. I just want to lighten it up just enough. So I'm going to offload like most of that paint. And I'm just going to dab it. And I'll go back through and like smush it around some more, but I just want to create a space for my words so that I can see them. But I still want it to look organic. I don't want it to look like I just put something there just so my words would show. Know what I mean? And so I'm going to offload that a little bit more, and then I'm just going to like spread that around a little bit. This is a chalk style paint that I used, so I'm just going to put some sealer over the top of it because I want to make sure my letters are going to stick really well. And you guys know that you want to make sure that your surface is completely dry before you put your transfer on there. The transfers do not like moisture at all. So that's a really stark, so I'm going to push that back just a little bit. I think I'll use some ink. Let's use... The green would be fun, but I think I'm going to use the Rusty Hinge because I used it up here. So we'll use it down here too. And I'm going to use my pad for this one. So I don't want it to be like a lot. I'm just going to warm that up a little bit so that it's not as stark. And I know it looks weird just kind of popping out of here, but we can go through and we can add other elements to balance this out so it doesn't look like it's just randomly right here. I'm going to make sure that that's good and dry. I know it's dry to the touch, but let's just make sure it's really, really dry. So I've written out the word wonder here, you guys, with the transfer. And so I'm just going to put that right here. And you guys can see how creating that lighter space is going to make it easier. I'm going to snip this tape because my work is so fresh. I don't want to risk that tape ripping up anything. But if this had sat for a couple of days, I wouldn't be worried about it. But I just decoupaged that right before we came on, you guys. And so the tape is now, it's all lined up. I know it's lined up because I took my time earlier and lined it up on my table before I put the tape on top. So now all I have to do is rub the transfer off. And the cool thing about the clear tape is I can still see the transfer really well. I think that having the topography in a transfer is really, really a cool idea. What do you guys think? So let's start pulling up. I always pull up slowly on my transfers. You see how that piece lifted right there? Can you guys see that? Because I'm moving slowly, I can go back in and set it back down and just rub it down, and no one will ever know. If I had snatched it up really quickly and moved my transfer paper, I wouldn't have really had that option. So I like to move slow when I'm lifting up my transfers just to make sure everything is tacked down really well before I pull it up all the way. And just rub that down and make sure, whoops, I have good adhesion. And I love Mary's idea of making a chimney. So this is the basket from the bottom of this balloon because we didn't use the whole thing. So Mary's suggestion was to use the basket to make it look like a flute of a chimney. And I love that idea. So we're going to do that. See, that's why you save all your pieces, you guys. You never know So this is our piece where we are right now. I'm gonna go back through and add some more elements. You know what I want to do before we leave, you guys? I'm sorry, I just saw something. Whenever I show my piece on camera, I always see something different. Because now I have to add these gears right here. I feel like I have to do it. And then I'll let you guys go. But you guys see how quick I was able to do that? Like I just really quickly I was able to add that on there. So this is my piece. I hope you guys enjoy hanging out with me today and creating. You guys, please, 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 if you guys make stuff, share it in the group. I'm sure all the other retailers, and I love it. I go in the group and I see the stuff that you guys create, absolutely fabulous. Be sure and connect with your retailer if you guys are looking for these products. If you don't have a retailer yet, you can log on to www.ironorchiddesigns.com, and at the top there is a tab for retailers, and you guys can find a retailer near you. If you don't have one near you, most of the retailers will ship. I always admonish you to like really connect with a retailer. They can help you with your projects. They can give you advice so that you're more likely to be successful. Again, my name is Royce Hunt Bell, owner, operator, and artist of Roycycled Treasures. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a blessed week. Bye-bye now.